What's going on, YouTube fam? We got a movie review to discuss today, and we will be talking about the film Charm City Kings. Now, this movie was screened at Sundance Film Festival in January, and then also was going to be screened at South by Southwest, which is now canceled because of the coronavirus. And tentatively, I guess still has a release date of April 10th. I guess it's going forward. There hasn't really been any news about this one being pushed back, as many other film projects have been pushed back because of everything that's going on. But like I said, as it stands, it looks like it's still on set to be released for April 10th. This movie does have Will and Jada Pinkett Smith in producer roles for this film, which is interesting because Jada's from Baltimore and Will's from Philly, and Will being from Philly and Meek Mills being from Philly, who's also in this movie. There's a correlation here as far as really getting some authenticity for the storytelling here. But not only just that too, so this movie does focus on the urban dirt bike riders scene in Baltimore. But originally this movie was called 12, which pays homage to, you know, the original clique of people called the 12 O'Clock Boys, which 12 o'clock because of the angle in which they, or the degree or angle in which they wheelie their bikes. But this movie, again, you know, it has its own little spin to the story where the 12 O'Clock Boys documentary was, you know, it's factual. It was very factual. This movie does has a lot of things created to really build this movie. And again, you know, I'm gonna say this more than enough times. This movie was long as hell. it was 2 hours, and it just really was really long. But nonetheless, this movie does follow a 14-year-old Mouse who really he's inspired, and he feels like it's his destiny to grow up and be better than his older brother Shro, who was slain in the streets, who was once a part of the Midnight Clique, the MNC. Because, you know, his brother was a legend. Everyone respected him in both the streets and the bike life community. And, you know, once he passed, you know, his little brother Mouse felt like, you know, he wanted to be that. And every little bit of seconds that he came, he's watching an old video of his brother, and he's just inspired to just be that. But nonetheless, the leader of this infamous crew, who you know, they rule the summer. When it's hot outside, they're getting it in. Blax, who's played by Meek Mills, he takes Mouse under his tutelage, and you know, pretty much because of the relationship that Black and Shro had together. So he takes his little brother. And you know, he leaves his little brother in a really precarious situation, because now at least Mouth having to decide on, you know, wanting to go straight and being honest and the educational route, because this boy is smart. He's really smart. Or and narrow, or does he go with the fast life, you know, filled with money, violence, and drugs and all that other good stuff? So you really get to see the dynamics between Mouse getting another big brother and then Black actually getting a younger brother. So a lot of the movie is built around that. So this movie, like I said, is take place in Baltimore. You may hear me refer to it as B-More because that's the name it goes by, in case you didn't know. And to be very clear too, I'm about 30 minutes outside of Baltimore, so tons of friends who just live in the area, and just my experience from being in the area, as well as having people who's a part of that bike life community. So you're really going to hear me speak a lot about how authentic this movie is or isn't. But nonetheless, like I said, this movie does portray Baltimore in a way I would say like really 50-50. I mean, they accurately depict the streets of Baltimore. I mean, they show Hip Hop Chicken. And then they show, you know, known streets and even building structures, abandoned buildings and row houses and all that other good stuff. The accents are absolutely on point. I feel like the lingo, the Baltimore lingo, is a little bit forced. But also, like, there's other things that just really noticeable. Like, Baltimore rides hard for their Baltimore Ravens, and there's not even a spick of purple in this film. And you can call it nitpicking if you want, but when you're in Baltimore, you know you're in Baltimore because yes, sure the Orioles is out there, but the Ravens, they go hard for their Ravens, who's just came off of a really good season last year, won a championship not too long ago. People in Baltimore ride hard for their Ravens, so for them to not really have any purple at all in this movie. I mean, sure the Ravens logo may be a licensing thing, but purple's purple, and it's so noticeable because that really, again, if you've ever been to Baltimore, you just know. If you've even flown through BWI Airport, you just know, like, you're in town because of that. And Baltimore, they have their own really distinct style. They didn't, as far as the soundtrack, we didn't hear any club music. As far as dressing attire, we didn't get any of that. And then, like I said, no one refers to Baltimore as Charm City. So, I had to just get that off my chest just so we're just perfectly clear here on the authenticity of the portrayal of Baltimore in this. But so the young cast, I feel like, were put into really familiar roles and they flourish. So the three core the three core kids, the nucleus, the three of them, really is very much on par with the trio that's in the TV show JAHI, which is on Showtime. They're almost identical. Seriously, the casting for this was hey, we want them, but we're not going to actually use that cast, but we're going to make them act like they are them and that. And maybe that's a thing for 14-year-olds. I'm not sure how old the cast is for or being portrayed for in the shot, but they're absolute parallels. There's really no getting around that. TEYONAH Parris is easily the star, and that's well expected in this movie. I mean, the emotion she put into being the mom here of Mouse is so it's as authentic as it gets. She did a tremendous job here. Now, Meek Mill's character is cool because what I really liked it and respected about him. So if you're a fan of his music and just everything he's doing for the community, period, he is absolutely about change, and his character did that because as much as he could have took the stereotypical route in his character, he didn't. There was definitely a lot of change and diversity into this role in which you really think is going to go the way you think, and it's not. Because easily he could have just used the influence of his life, his knowledge and life within the streets, within the bike life community, and everything, and he completely decided to flip that because you can see that his influence on this movie based on his personal life is all in it. But the fact that he decided to flip it is just amazing to me. I appreciated it for him as a person and for the character because I saw the movie going one way super hard, and it did because the plot is predictable, but for his character it didn't, and I did appreciate that. But like I said, for me, being close to Baltimore and having friends and stuff was part of that bike life. I have to say a couple other few things too, is that the Baltimore bike life has truly died down over the last few years, where this movie really does portray it as being a thing that everyone knows about, everyone's a part of, and everyone just participates in, and it just seems like a happy unity for youth in all ages to just all come together and celebrate. And it's not because packs are smaller. A lot of the OG riders really don't come out anymore or participate because, on the contrary, the cops have stepped their game up, and the cops have really cracked down on these ride outs because there's harm and danger to it. So the cops have to do what they have to do as their job, and I respect that. But much like in the movies, the haters are still in full effect. So theft and all that other stuff is really a big thing. So there's scenes where Mouse leaves his bike and just walks away, and I'm just nah. nah. But as far as even riding out in the scene, either you know somebody, or if you don't, then people aren't too accepting of people just riding around and stuff like that. And as far as the big summer ride out that they talked about in this movie too, it is a known thing. It just doesn't happen because it's hard to establish and plan because the cops are all over it, whether it be social media or anything. They're just really cracking down, preventing these things from happening. So if something is to happen, it is low key. And like I said earlier, the MNC, the Midnight Click, it's not a real crew. But nonetheless, it does pay homage to the 12 O'Clock Boys and the Wild Out Willie Boys, who are well known in the Baltimore street in history of bike life, period. Well respected within that community. But like I said, this movie is like super long, 2 hours too long. It felt every bit of the longness, like honestly. The plot is predictable. It does have some humor and drama, of course. And the bike riding action shots and stunts were really cool. And the soundtrack was decent as well, nonetheless. But like I said, I think this movie is going to really draw to its crowd and its audience. I think, for the people who were going to, attend South by Southwest or this film festivals, period, because I'm guessing that schedule is going to be altered a little bit as well now. I think it's definitely still worth a watch. It is long, I can't stress enough. But it does a good job. I was intrigued by it. It made me ask questions. I was more interested about the culture and that life. And again, I had to go back and make some calls and kind of cross-reference things about it. And nonetheless, I think the movie does a really stellar job for what it's worth. But yeah, Charm City Kings, it comes out, like I said, tentatively April 10th, and we'll see if it goes forward from then. But until then, make sure you do stay subscribed and come back for more additional movie reviews. Let me know in the comments what you think about this movie when you check it out.